forms, one of the forms is definitely pattern and texture. As a graphic designer, I think you will find this everywhere, or even during any period or any stage of your design, you will still be connected with such form related to pattern and texture. So here's the definition for pattern. First, it is a repetitive decorative design. Okay. Second, it can relate to human thought process, a series of related thoughts or behavior. So it's not necessarily just for the graphic type. Okay, we can find a pattern in our behavior or thoughts or reaction as well. All right, when you've grown up, have you ever done this type of thing? Yeah, sticking pasting posters on your wall to fill up the whole surface? No. Nope. All right. But definitely you've seen other people who've done it, right? Yeah. Yeah. So this is called horovachi. Vacuum? Yeah. Okay, it's a psychological word. Yeah, it's a need to fill up the empty space. It's a basic human impulse. Okay. And it's the desire to avoid, to add such visual interest to an empty space. That's why, people see the white wall, they don't feel comfortable. Like I wanted to add something up, so to decorate the surface. So, especially when you kind of fall in love with certain type of form, okay? Certain kinds of toy, movie stars, right? Singers or band, yeah. Then you tend to mix them. All right. So one thing about interior design is decorating the wall space. Okay. Instead of make everything white, which a lot of modern interior designer prefer because it's the most simplistic way, to show the modern style. But still, there are a lot of people who prefer actually have that wall being decorated, depending on what type of color or pattern that they use. It can give a different feeling to the viewer. And then pattern is not only that kind of decorative form. We use pattern in fine art, in drawing and painting as well. Okay, repetitive pattern has a certain power to create such visual interest. Okay, orders and varieties. So pattern begins with a unit of a shape that is repeated. Okay, just remember that for those 3 posters you are going to create, you don't have to develop a whole new different image for every single part about the poster. So you can just develop a unit and let it repeat, okay? So most patterns can be reduced to a grid, to some sort, and the result is kind of crystallographic. Yeah, it's like it's very balanced or has a certain order, okay? So textile, do you guys have seen that everywhere? Yeah, maybe in your house, or anywhere you go to, you see that a lot. And a certain kind of textile gives you a different types of feeling, more complicated ones, more simple ones, yeah. And there are all kinds of patterns. Okay, I actually was trying to find things on the internet where I don't see this like in the Western kind of visual world when you guys was defining this, but pattern was such a big thing in Oriental culture, especially in China when those old dynasty was formed. If you imagine those palaces, right, those places where the emperor lives, that everything they have actually clothing, cup or ceramic or building everywhere, almost every corner of it, we have patterns on that. Yeah, so we have a very, very developed, completed system to give such a definition and structure of how pattern was formed and what kind of pattern can be formed. Okay, so there are 4 kinds of pattern that I put together, so you can look at how they were formed. One is called a single graphic, the second is called corner pattern, and then we have fitted pattern and continuous pattern. Okay, single pattern almost look at one image, okay, but such one image is very symmetrical in some way. Okay, if you fold from the center, you can definitely repeat the left or the right. The reason why it is pattern, because this is well designed. It's not some kind of random, design that's kind of symmetrical. So it's well designed, and almost every little piece needs detailed, careful attention in order to draw it out. Okay, corner pattern. Corner pattern is, from the word definition, you can see corner. People use this to decorate the window a lot in the past. Yeah. Especially during holidays or that type of celebration of festivals. Red corner pattern was very common and very usual in northern China. Yeah, so people would put different type of images, say for example bird, fish, flower, and use those as symbolized for a new year wishes, a new year blessing, for example, just to get such fortune. In the culture, we think that will help you not only see the beauty of the pattern, but also get a lot of meaningful future blessings. Fitted pattern, okay. Fitting pattern, we have two kinds of fitting. One is a square, the second kind is a circle type. And similar to the one single pattern, it's symmetrical, not only linear symmetrical, but also like in a circular way. Okay, so you can almost fold it into 8 parts, and it's still symmetrical in whatever way. And they're very complicated in one way, that almost every part in this pattern, starting from the center, and it will end exactly like this shape that it formed itself. If you make it larger, it can be a blanket, right? It can be a rug. What is that? Rug. Yeah, rug. And if you make it small enough, it can be a coaster, right? The cup. Coaster. Yeah. Anything. Like such pattern can be utilized to decorate, more functional type of product. And we also have continuous pattern. Continuous pattern has a lot of potential by using that little part, say for example decorating the sleeves of the clothes, decorating any part on the wall, say for example on the bottom of the wall. Instead of getting a completed pattern. This continuous pattern, as you see, it can keep going on and on and on forever. So you can basically end anywhere and start anywhere you want it. The left hand aspect about this continuous pattern is showing how those patterns can be moved. You have this linear way, moving vertically or moving diagonally, but it's linear. Yeah. The second part, this bottom one here shows it has this type of pattern where you show a whole pattern and half pattern repetitively, and this part is showing that those little dotted pattern, you can arrange them anywhere and onto those patterns. And you also have this wavy pattern or a combination integrated pattern with such. Okay, and this type of pattern, you see them a lot on sweaters, right? Or any kind of yarn-based kind of product. And continuous pattern can be seen not only linear, but also in a large kind of format. You can basically start anywhere and end anywhere too. You can cut it into any kind of shape. Fabric is such type, right? Continuous pattern. You cannot say designer fabric that looks it looks so different every part from one another, but you can repeat a pattern and let the fabric look as beautiful as it is. Okay, so what we require from this assignment is actually a continuous pattern like this, and the requirement is 18 by 12 inches. Okay, so you do not necessarily have to create pattern like so oriental or so detailed, sophisticated, detailed, but definitely it is a continuous pattern, and you can see almost details and color and the form, the shape, and even the white space between the gaps, create those interesting forms. Yeah. Where have you seen this type of pattern the most, huh? Christmas, yeah. On sweaters or socks, right? Yeah. And also there are illustrative type of pattern where you don't see where the gap, where the kind of unit, where the unit is, but they are repetitive in any way. So they will form such kind of random continuation in that type, okay? And then it's the texture. As Andre also mentioned, texture, it has to have this feel, the appearance or consistency of the surface and substance. So it has to refer such surface of quality of the object and evoke a sense of touch. Say the image on the left, instead of making it being perfect, 2D, and I almost feel how dry it is, almost can feel when I touch it, like how this texture would feel to my finger, So it is very difficult to draw this strict line between pattern and texture, but texture often repeats, but its variations can be, very different, can involve. Do not have to, involve perfect regularity. Say the texture on the left hand, we kind of see the repetition that's going on, starting from the top and expansion, but we don't really have to have that type of perfect regularity in this image. Okay, and then there are three kinds of texture too. So one is the actual texture, and then we have implied texture and collaged texture. So actual texture, you can see that anywhere, even just by walking on the street, you see all the leaves fall, the spray, the tattoo, not tattoo, graffiti, yes, and this rusted wall or certain type of stone, anything that you can see around, it exists in the nature, and it can also create it on your own. This is a texture that's created by experimenting milk and food ink, I guess. Yeah, it's very interesting. And you can form your own texture. At some point, all this little button or started form this like little elements in the texture. And we also have implied texture. Vincent van Gogh is one of the representative artists who have used a lot of texture in his painting. So we also apply texture in our graphic work too, in order to see a more interesting visual part of it. Yeah. And then we have collage texture. Collage texture, then you combine all types of material, all types of 2D material in order to form this texture. Yeah. So at least if you are exploring this texture that you have nothing, you don't have any idea in mind, collage texture is one type that you can explore, to try out and get all kinds of color from magazine, from newspaper. Maybe that's one thing that you wanted to explore and try. Yeah. So at least that's one kind. Alright, yeah, so this is the basic of texture and pattern in terms of the definition. And I also wanted to show you guys some examples of what the previous student did. So as I said, previous students have explored a lot using some of the pigments, painting materials, you know, and they may be able to find, you know, that texture within it, yeah. And students have also created something, printed out on this paper, and then cut it again and rescan it, you know. So have created a lot of very interesting visuals, yeah. This student, Kobe, he painted a variety of two color like painting. It's so flat. Actually, it doesn't look that good at the beginning, but this is the scan result that he did from his process. He just simply scanned the painting he did, but in a very dynamic way, you know, playful way on the scanner. Yeah. Some paintings or paints students start exploring. As I told you guys before, there's one student discovered those color and pattern from the mold. This is actually one of her mold texture from the tea bags. You remember that? Yeah. So it's, you know, it's pretty rather than disgusting, right? Yeah. So it's very interesting when you take a closer look at everything. Yeah, definitely has color adjustments on this, you know. Yeah, one student who used paint again, you know, to discover pattern, and she cut that one piece out and then started repeat those patterns, you know, and it formed those very interesting. Yep. So, you know, real texture, for example, textures from paint, yeah. And this student who didn't really have any idea at the beginning, you know, so he basically used computer to draw some kind of color palettes. And then I said, why don't you print it out? And after he printed out, and I say, you know, can you try to physically, you know, like continue to explore some type of pattern? So he cut it out, start weaving them in this way, you know, and all the color weave together, which is, you know, quite fascinating in some way. Yeah, so, and this student, again, she did some kind of drawing, scanning, you know, results, distorting what's going on. So the previous assignment is a little bit different. Student explore the pattern first, you know, say the word, all the 6 words that use related to peaceful, thrill. They create some artwork first, and then they start from the artwork, and then create more interesting textures out of that, you know. So those were examples, yeah. And this student, I forgot what material he uses, but he said definitely maybe he cooked milk with ink in the microwave. Yeah, so it's like very, yeah, very strange but very interesting experiment too. Okay, yeah, this is still the one that I say that the student scanned the results. Yeah, so it's very, very pretty results. Some ice, right? Water and ice experiment. Some dough, I guess, is dough and ink or some type, yeah. So what you're going to do is a little bit different. Most of those you see looks like an experiment from ink, you know, all that type of painting materials, yeah. But we are going to only use one kind of pigments in our assignment, yeah. So your assignment may be limited rather than such, you know, kind of images. Alright, yeah, I think that's basically the presentation.